In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn any Swiss Army knife into a fire starting tool. We're going to take a look at Tortoise Gear's Fire Ant and Firefly ferro rods and fire tinder. Check it out. Hey guys, I'm Kevin with Kemp Outside, your inside source for all things outside. Today we are going to do a gear review on some stuff from Tortoise Gear. Tortoise Gear makes fire starting products for Swiss Army knives. So I'm super excited about this. They make ferro rods and fire tinder, and it is gear you can put right on or right in your Swiss Army knife to make it a complete fire starting tool right in your pocket. Guys, this is awesome for you campers and hikers out there who want the ability to start a campfire without having to carry a lot of gear. So we're going to take a look at the products from Tortoise Gear today. We're going to take a look at the Firefly, which is their ferro rod that replaces the toothpick. And we're going to look at the Fire Ant, which is their ferro rod that fits in the corkscrew, as well as their fire tinder that fits in the corkscrew. I'm going to get these packages open, and then we're going to outfit a variety of Swiss Army knives. So check this out. Okay guys, so the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at the Fire Ant by Tortoise Gear. So this pack comes with 6 little ferro rods and 6 fire tinders. So let's get this open and then take a look at what we got here. And what's nice is if you're careful with this packaging, you can open it up and then leave stuff in the, leave the stuff that you're not using in the package. So I want to get one of these out. There we go. All right, so all these ferro rods are the same. They're just different colors. So you don't have to, worry about color coordination unless you want to. You just pick the color you're going to go with. I figure I'll just go with this green because it was out of its slot, and I got a fire tinder here. And so how this works is, if I wanted to add this, let's say, to my handyman, and I did a review on this knife, guys, so you can check that review out. But basically, you open up the corkscrew, and then you put the fire tinder in first, right? You just kind of screw it in, and it'll take the shape of the corkscrew. And you don't want to go too far, but you just want to get it in there. All right, that's good. And then you take the ferro rod. You got to get it in. It will ride inside. There we go. And so there you have it. You have the ferro rod and the fire tinder all stored in the corkscrew. I think I gotta rotate it just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so it is in there. So what I'm gonna do in a little bit is I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna test this, and we're gonna shoot video. We're gonna actually light one of these on fire. I'm gonna waste one for you guys. But let's say you have a knife with a corkscrew, but you have the little glasses screwdriver. And so you don't want to lose this capability. Well, you just take a Fire Ant tinder, you put it in the corkscrew, put your screwdriver back in, right? So you have that. Okay, so you still have that capability. But instead, you take your toothpick out and you replace it with a Firefly. So these Fireflies are really cool because they are longer ferro rods. They're probably even easier to use. Let me get this open. And I got the pack that has 3 of these ferro rods. I can get one out, there we go. And so instead of carrying a toothpick that I never use, go ahead and replace it with the ferro rod. So now I didn't lose the ability to carry the mini screwdriver, but I still have my fire tinder and a fire starter. So we're gonna test all of that out. Let's look at the Fieldmaster. So the Fieldmaster is one of my favorite Swiss Army knives, but it does not have a corkscrew. It has a Phillips head screwdriver. Right, so without the corkscrew, the fire ant is pretty much useless, right? I can't put anything there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull out the toothpick and I'm gonna replace it with a Firefly. If I can get one out of the package. It's probably the hardest part of shooting these videos is getting these things out of packages. There we go. So we'll put the ferro rod in. And so that one sticks out a little bit. But anyway, so we have the ferro rod in there now. And so what we need is we need some fire tinder. And so one of the things that I like to do is I carry a couple of these. So these are Blackbeard fire plugs. And guys, these are awesome. I did a review on these. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link up in the right-hand corner. But these are awesome. And actually, guys, I would recommend, honestly, that you don't use these little fire ant tinders unless you need to. And the reason for that is they're expensive. Guys, they're super expensive. Compared to the Blackbeard Fire, where you get this bag, right, and it has 50 plugs in it. And I'm going to put a link down in the description below where you can get this because these are awesome. And I'm an affiliate, guys. So if you use my link to purchase, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it's a great way to support Camp Outside. What you can do is you can take a handful of these, 2, 3, 5, you know, and each of these starts a fire really easily. And you can just put them in a Ziploc baggie. Right, this is like a snack bag, and I just put a couple of these in, and then I just throw this in my kit. And so with this and, you know, a Firefly ferro rod, you have a great fire starter. And these guys are a lot less expensive than the fire ant tinder. They're also a lot bigger. So, you know, and these don't weigh anything either, guys. So, you know, yeah, you can start fire with that, no problem. You can start fire with this, no problem. You know, both are great fire starters. And I have both for a reason. But when I'm carrying this knife, if you want the ability to have a Phillips screwdriver on your knife, and there's, you know, more than just the Fieldmaster has those. Carrying the fire plugs from Blackbeard Fire is a great way to carry some fire tinder to use with your ferro rod. So I am definitely excited about using these with my ferro rod to start fires. Okay guys, so it's time to test these out. We're first gonna test the Firefly, which is the easier of the two to use by far. I've tested these out a little bit just to get familiar with them. So I'm going to use the Firefly to light just a piece of the Blackbeard fire plug. So here's what's left of that fire plug. So you can see this is only maybe a quarter of it. Typically I just break these in half and use them, but since I'm only using just a little bit, like a half of a helix, I thought, well, I'll just use a fourth of the Blackbeard just to give you kind of a hint. And then what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the bottle opener, the wire stripper there, to get a good spark on the Firefly tinder, right? So I'm going to put that down there, and actually I'm going to try and just, let's see, what I want to do is I want to light this wispy part, right? So that's, with all these fire tenders, you want to have really frayed parts because that's what ignites. You won't light it if you don't have like a frayed part of the thing. So here we go. We're going to give this a go. And there we go. So pretty easy once I got it to go. And this will burn for quite a while, guys. So I really, really like the Blackbeard fire starters. So as we let that burn out, we'll get transferred over to testing out the fire ant. But these are really nice and they'll last a long time. And you can use the back of the wood saw, the back of the scissors, back of the pliers, whatever tool you want to use in your Swiss Army knife, you can use to ignite this. And both the Helix Tinder and the Blackbeard are waterproof, so even if these are wet, they will light, which is good. But as you can see, you get good burn time, so if you have a lot of kindling that you can set on that tinder, you'll absolutely get a fire started. So while that's burning, I'm going to take the piece of Helix fire tinder and I basically cut this in half. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread it out. I'll actually try and blow this out. There we go. Let's see if I set off my fire alarm here. I'm going to go ahead and just let that out. There we go. All right. And so what you do with this is you open it up and you spread it out. And so this is like I mean, all these fire tenders are like some kind of cotton or something, some kind of a material that's then held together with wax. And so as you pry it open, basically what you're trying to do is really trying to expose the fibers, because that's what ignites, as I said, for the Blackbeard fire starter. And I'll say that, you know, in comparing the two, the Blackbeard fire starter is easier to work with than the Helix Tinder. But the benefit of the Helix Tinder is that it fits on the corkscrew of the knife, which is really nice. So there we go. We've got it open. And so this is not an easy thing to use, guys. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's easy, because I don't think that it is. But it does work. So one of the things about these fire ant is that they're really small, right? So the benefit of that is it fits in the corkscrew. The bummer is that you don't get as good of a spark as you do with the Firefly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the tinder down with the saw, right? And then I'm going to strike the fire ant on the back of the saw and try to light the tinder. So here we go. And it takes a while to get this to go, but there it is. And so both of these work. You can use either one. You can use the fire ant or the Firefly. But I do have a favorite, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but we'll just go ahead and let that burn so you can just kind of see runtime on that. So that's half of a Helix. And so not nearly as long of a runtime or as hot of a burn as the Blackbeard fire starter, but it's less material. And again, you're not carrying something extra in your pocket. You're using the helix that is in the corkscrew of the knife. And so if you have some good dry tinder, that shouldn't be too bad. Okay, and so that's going out. Pretty much done with that. All right, time for final thoughts. Okay guys, so as you can see, both of these products, both the Firefly and the Fire Ant, do work pretty well. One thing that I would say, guys, is you kind of have to decide when you're going to want to use these products. So I do a lot of camping, and so I have a lot of campfires. And I would say that this isn't how I'm going to start the majority of my campfires, right? I'm going to go a lot easier on myself. I'm going to use the Blackbeard fire plugs to light some kindling, and then have a fire. And I'm most likely going to light those fire plugs with a lighter, right? I mean, I'm camping. I mean, who am I kidding? I've got, camp stoves, and, it's not like I'm roughing it. I'm not, out in the backwoods with just a pocket knife and hopes and dreams. So, this is more for those emergency situations, right? When you maybe are in the woods, and all of a sudden you are going to need to stay put overnight, right? You're lost, you're injured, you're that kind of thing. And, you're going to need to keep warm, or maybe you want some light, or you want a fire to give away your position. And so you're going to want to be able to start a fire. This is, more of that kind of thing. And so I would categorize this as, Blackbeard fire plugs, great for using them all the time, right? Every campfire, I pretty much use those now. They're fantastic. If I don't want to use a lighter, or my lighter runs out of fuel, or my lighter gets wet, because sometimes I leave it out overnight and it rains, and then my lighter's wet and I can't light my camp stove in the morning, having a ferro rod as a backup is great. And so these Firefly ferro rods are fantastic, right? So I highly recommend having the ferro rod. And guys, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't use the toothpick. I don't think I've ever used the toothpick in a Swiss Army knife. So pretty much every Swiss Army knife I have probably is going to get a Firefly ferro rod replacement, because it adds capability to my knife when I need it. So I highly recommend the Firefly. I think that the Firefly is a great addition to any Swiss Army knife that has the toothpick option. Then the last thing really is the Fire Ant. Do I recommend the Fire Ant? And I will say that I struggled with the Fire Ant. It took me a lot of practice to get this thing to work. As a matter of fact, I shot a previous version of this video where I didn't recommend the Fire Ant because I couldn't get the tinder to light. But I said, no, enough people have reviewed this that I'm obviously just not practiced at it. And so I spent a lot of time, and I went through a bunch of these Helix fire tinders to practice to the point where I could do this on video. And so, guys, my channel is not for, hardcore outdoor survivalists. If you are a hardcore outdoor survivalist and you've, found your way to the channel or this video, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. But my channel is really focused on encouraging moms and dads to take their kids in the outdoors, right? And so I review a wide variety of gear that, everything from, this kind of stuff to, lanterns and camp chairs and sleeping bags and, all kinds of stuff. And really it's for the family camper in mind. And so, but everybody that's going to be outside needs to be prepared for an emergency. And that's why I like the Fire Ant. But guys, if you're going to buy the Fire Ant, don't just screw it into your knife and assume that you can go light a fire, right? I have been lighting campfires for years. I've been using fire tinder for years. I struggle with this to start. I struggled with how to hold the knife. I struggled with what was the best way to use the tool. I struggled with the fact that the ferro rod was so short. When I was not using the knife to pin down the tinder, and I was holding the ferro rod in place and using the knife as a striker, like I normally use ferro rods, I kept flinging the helix tinder away from the spark, and it was driving me crazy. It took a while for me to figure out that you use the knife to pin down the tinder and you strike the ferro rod and you move the ferro rod, not the knife. So it took a while for me to figure that out, and once I did, I liked it a whole lot better. So what I want you guys to do is not just slap this in your knife and think that you're good to go in case of emergency. Guys, in an emergency, anxiety is high. Most likely, you're going to be trying to light wet kindling. You know, it's never optimal conditions in an emergency. So you're going to want to practice this at home. So what I would say is, if you're going to carry the fire ant, go ahead and buy at least one package of the helix tinder. There's a 12 pack of helix tinder, and I'll put a link to that down in the description below. And guys, I want you to practice. You know, I want you to waste a couple of these on a cookie sheet in your house or outside or whatever. I want you to practice so that in an emergency, you have the confidence to know that you can light this stuff and that you're not panicking because you can't get it to light because you've never tried it before. The other thing is that these ferro rods have a coating on them, and you have to scrape that coating off in order to get a spark. So it's good to just do that before you even throw it in your knife for the first time. Go ahead and scrape that stuff off until you know that you're getting a spark, and then go ahead and put it in your knife so that you're good to go there. Guys, in terms of talking about price, and I normally don't mention price because prices fluctuate, and my videos, you know, you could be watching this the day I post it. You could be watching this video 3 years from the day I posted. I don't know. Prices change. But I'm just going to give you the prices today. I normally don't do that, but I'm going to do it today because I think it's important. The Fireflies are, there's a 3-pack. This is the one I bought. I bought a 3-pack, and it's like 20 bucks. So for under $7 a knife, you can outfit your knife with a ferro rod. I think that's a fair price. I always would love things to be less expensive, but you know, where it's more expensive is if you only have one Swiss Army knife and you're trying to outfit it and you can have to buy 3, well then you've got 2, you've got nothing, you know, you can't just buy one. But for those of us with multiple Swiss Army knives, a 3-pack for $20, not a bad price to outfit 3 knives with ferro rod capabilities. The helix tinder is a 12-pack for $12, so it's $1 a tinder, and that is high to me. I get that you're able to store it in the corkscrew. That's pretty cool, but for me, I can buy 50 of these fire plugs in a pack for $15 from Blackbeard Fire, and so I put 3 or 4 of those in a little snack bag, Ziploc baggie, and that goes in my pack with me, and then I always have really good fire tinder. So the chances of me actually using the helix in the field is really, really low because I always have a couple of fire plugs in my pack anyway in a Ziploc baggie, and I would go to those 10 times out of 10. So yes, I have the helix in my knives just because, you know, there might be times when I have my knife but I don't have my pack, and so therefore I don't have my Blackbeard Fire. But in 99% of my use cases, I'm always going to go to the Blackbeard Fire plugs before I go to the helix tinder. But if you're going to carry the helix tinder, guys, you need to practice, which means you probably need to buy a 12-pack and you need to go through at least a couple of them so that you know what you're doing and you're proficient. What I like about the helix tinder is you can cut it in half. Right, and so, you know, out of a 12-pack, you could potentially start 24 fires. But if your kindling is wet, you might need the whole thing because the burn time of the helix tinder is not nearly as long as the burn time of the Blackbeard Fire plugs. So you might be going through a couple of helix tinders if you're dealing with really wet kindling. So just something to consider there. So in general, I highly recommend your Blackbeard Fire plugs as your go-to fire plug tinder, but I don't mind carrying the helix as a backup. That leads me to the fire ant kit, right? And the fire ant kit is 6 of the mini ferro rods that go into the corkscrew, and then 6 of the helix tenders. And guys, that is a $39 kit, which I think is high. You can buy a 3 pack of 3 ferro rods and 3 tenders for $22, but I think that's really high too. So I definitely would go with the 6 pack, especially if you have multiple Swiss Army knives. I did have a solid fit for everything in my handyman. So in my handyman, you can see the Firefly and then the Fire Ant setup. In my Fieldmaster, which is a 32-year-old knife, the ferro rod did not fit all the way down in the toothpick. And so I don't know if things have changed over 32 years. My guess is they have, but that's just that. So if you're outfitting a really old knife, you might have an issue. If you're outfitting a knife that has aftermarket scales, you might have an issue. So fit may not be perfect for all applications, but in my work champ, there is that's the mini screwdriver, but I've got fire tender and I've got a Firefly, perfect fit there. And in my handyman, same thing, Firefly, and then the Fire Ant, mini ferro, and the helix tender, perfect fit. So just something to consider there. All in all, guys, I do like the products. I recommend them. I wish the price was a little less. I did pay for all of this with my own money. This was not sent to me. So just to be totally upfront about that. What would I do in the future? So I do, I'm a Swiss Army knife guy. I love Swiss Army knives. I'm probably going to acquire a few more. I have some different plans, and I also want to do some different gear reviews on some different knives, because we've done a series of gear reviews. I think we've done 4 Swiss Army knives so far, and we plan to do some more. So with that, I'm going to be getting some more. What would I do? How would I outfit those knives? Well, for sure, I'm going to get a Firefly for probably every knife that has a toothpick holder. I really like that product. For every knife that has a corkscrew, am I going to get a Fire Ant for each corkscrew? I probably will load the corkscrew up with the helix tender, because why not? It's just empty space. But I think probably rather than carrying the mini ferro rod of the Fire Ant, I'd rather have a Firefly. And then in this case, I really like that little mini screwdriver. So I would not lose the mini screwdriver capability in a knife to carry a mini ferro rod. I would much rather carry the Firefly. So that's the beautiful thing about Swiss Army knives, though, is that you can outfit them a whole variety of ways. So you might have different setups on different knives depending on what you want to do. Well, so with that, guys, again, affiliate links down in the description below. I would love to hear what you think of Firefly and Fire Ant by Tortoise Gear. Also, you can let me know what you think of Blackbeard Fire. Let me know how you add fire starting capability to your Swiss Army knives. I'd love to hear what you do. And also, guys, if you have any tips or tricks for lighting fires for our viewers, drop something in the comments below. We'd always love to hear from you. You can also connect with us on our other social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, or our website at campoutside.com. Like I said, guys, we exist to help moms and dads take their kids camping, hiking, fishing, learn about nature, and develop a conservation ethic. We want to help you, get you and your kids outside. So if you have any questions at all about any of this stuff, drop something in the comments. We would love to hear from you. And guys, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe and that little bell icon that notifies you when we release new videos so you don't miss anything else. This is a whole series we're doing on one of my favorite pieces of outdoor gear, the Swiss Army knife. So a whole lot more to come in this series. And we're also doing a whole bunch of camping, hiking, and fishing content. We're doing trip vlogs. We're doing all kinds of stuff. So if you like outdoor content, definitely join our tribe here at Camp Outside. Guys, I'm Kevin with Camp Outside. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.